Alright, welcome to another video. In this video we will add authentication to our blog app so that only the authenticated users should be able to add or create the post and delete the post, and also like the edit post. Everyone should not be able to create or edit or delete the post. So we will also show the author name in the post so that we know that which user created that post. So before starting, if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe. So let's start. First open up the terminal and go to the our project, new blog, and let's open up the VS Code. Okay, and then we can also run our project. Okay, if we go back to the browser and open up the application, so we can see that our application that is previously we developed. So we can create the post, edit the post, and delete the post. Okay, let's open up a new tab, and here we can first we have to generate a new model user. So we can add the username and password to fields to the user model, and it will also create a migration. So let's create a Rails generate. You can also write the shortcut like Rails G, and then we have to generate. We have to generate a model. So if you want to generate a migration, you have to first write here the migration. If you want to generate a controller, you can also create a have to first specify the controller. So which model we want to generate? We want to create the user model. So, and what are the fields we want? First we want to create a name field, and that name field be of type string, and the second field will be of email, and it will be also of type string, and the third field we want is password, but we are not storing the plain string in our database. We will be storing the password digest, and it will be also of type string. I will let you know later on that why we used this specific name for the password. So because we will be using the bcrypt gem, and that requires to have this password digest column in the model. So let's hit enter. Okay, you can see that it created this migration. It also created this model in the app model and user.orb. It also creates some test files and some fixtures, but we will use these later on. First we have to just we can look into these two files. So if we go back to the VS Code and let's go to app models, and you can see we have this now user model. And if we take a look at the, let's make it zoom. Okay, and then if we go back to the migration, and you can see that it created this migration there where we will have like the name, email, and password digest. So here we can also write some validation, null colon false, right, and emails should also be not null, and password digest will also be should not null, right. And we can also add the default value, but currently we don't want the default value. Okay, so let's change these things, and it also added the timestamps, means that created at and updated at fields will be added. So if we remove this one, those fields will not be added. To run the migration, we can write Rails db migrate, but it should also give us the option in here. For example, because one migration is pending. If we refresh here, it is saying that you have one pending migration, and we can also run the migration by clicking on this button, run pending migration. But let's run the migration through terminal. If I hit enter, okay, so you can see that migration has been run, and if we refresh, our application is running. And now let's go to the gem file and add the gem bcrypt. Okay, and now run bundle install. Okay, so bcrypt gem is installed. Let's go to our model user.rb, and here we can specify attribute has secure password. So this is the helper method provided by bcrypt gem. And let's go to our application, and what we have to do is now we have to add a new route. For example, we can go to localhost 3000 and /login, and it will show the login page where the user will enter their email and password, and then they should be logged in. So before login, we should first create a sign up, right, so that user can create their accounts. So let's go to our routes.rb, and here let's first we have to create this route, and it should be like get, because we will first go to through this URL from the browser. Let's go to /sign up, right, and where it should send this request, let's go to the controller, and here we don't have any specific controller. Let's create a new controller. Let's name it sessions controller, or for the registrations we can create a registration controller. Our controller name should be Pruler, so it will be the registrations controller.org. Okay, and here we can create a file, and the class name will be registrations controller, and it should inherit from application controller, right? Okay, and then here we can create a method def create. You can give any name, but it makes sense to, like, we are creating a registration, so I specify the name as create. And in the routes we can map it to registrations #create. So instead of creating, we have first def new, right? So when we go to this URL and a form will open, this URL should open a new form, and it should hit this new method of registrations. And when we submit the form, then the create action should be called. So let's change it to registration #new, right? If I refresh, you can see that it is now saying that template is missing. Let's go to the views app, and then views, and in the views we should have the same name, registrations. Let's create a folder, registrations, right? And in the registrations we will have the same file name, that is our method name. It would be new.html.erb, right? And if we refresh, sorry, this should be in the views. Let's move it. Yeah, now it's registration and new files are in the views. If we refresh, you can see it showed the blank page because we did not add anything. Let's just add some dummy text here and let's refresh. So our view is rendering properly. So let's show a form here. Okay, let's create a form here and for the form it should have, let's go back to the registration new and here first initialize our model user.new, and in the form for we have to give pass our instance, and then we can specify the URL, and the URL should be \signup. okay, and then we can get our form object. Okay, so this is the \signup, means that when the form is submitted it should send the post request on this URL. So if we go back to the routes, we can see that there is no any post request to that URL, but we have only this get request. So let's create a same name sign up, same route but with the different HTTP verb, that it will be like post, and which method it will call the create. Okay, we can have the same routes but their verbs should be different. When we send the get request, it will show the sign up form, and when we send the post request to this URL, it should create the user and it should call this method. Okay, so if we go back to the new.html here and let's add some fields. In the user model we know that we have the name, so we will have the label name, and then we can show the text field, and the text field will be of type name. So if we refresh, it is saying that cannot load such file. So let's go back to the terminal and run bundle here, because previously we run the bundle from here. We did not restart our server, and let's run bundle and restart our server from here. If we refresh, so our error is gone and we can see a form where we have this name. Okay, and the name, other than that we can also have the field of email, f.label. the label will be of type e, label title will be of email, and f.text field, and it should be, the name should be email. So I believe we also have email field. Let's try that. If we refresh, oh yeah, so we also have this helper method of email field, and if we check the difference, so you can see that this created a input field of type email and we specify this email field, but here we specify the text field, it created a input of type text. So yeah, that's great. And let's create one more field that will be f dot label, and here we want the user to put their password. And f dot label, we will have password. Sorry, this should be password underscore field. If we refresh, you can see that it created a input field of type password. And then last but not the least, we can have this our submit button, f dot submit, and you can see the label is create user, but we want to have this, the label should be sign up, so we can specify or change the label like that. Let's refresh. You can see the label is changed to sign up. So let's fill the form and try to submit. Let's add the email and add some password. Okay, let's sign up. So okay, it did nothing. If we go back to our terminal, and I can show you. Okay, so you can see that it started this post request on this URL, and it routes the request to registration controller and then the create method, and this data is passed. This is the authenticity token. I will create a video on this authenticity token. You can also check that out. And here, this is our data that is passed when we submitted the form. We have this user key, and in the user hash we have the name is Ahmed, and email is also the one that we filled, and the password is filtered, means it is secured and can't be shown, so that anyone should not be able to see your password. And you can see that no template found for registration create. It means that our request has reached here, right? And here we can actually create the user. So let's create a new method to filter the params. We can params dot require, and which key we require. We want the key to have this user. We want to have this user key, and in the user key what we want to permit is we want to permit only name, email, and then password. Okay. And then let's initialize our user object, user.new, and then we can call this user params, right? And then if right here user.save, and then we can create an alert. We can show a alert of notice user or account created successfully, and otherwise we want to show the it should be flash error creating account. Okay. And then if the user account is created successfully, we can redirect the user to the root path. Currently, because we don't have any login form, so just for demonstration that account is created successfully, we are redirecting the user to the root path. And then in this case also we would have redirecting the user to root path. We can redirect the user to the same page, sign up, right? Okay, let's refresh and add a name here, fill the email and set the password. If I click sign up, okay, you can see that if we go back to the terminal, you can see that it inserts a new entry in our user table, and user is created. If we go here to our other tab and open up our Rails console, okay, so here we can actually check how many users we have in our database. So you can see it have 1. Let's check that record. So you can see that the username is Ahmed, email is the one, and password is password digest is actually filtered. But if I can show you dot password digest, you can see that the password is encrypted, so no one can decrypt it. And so our sign up is done. Let's go to our routes and add the 2 new routes. First one is login, right? And for the logins we can send them to the sessions controller and then new, right? And then for the post we can send them login and then to the sessions and then the create method. Okay, so let's go to the controllers and create a new controller. Okay, let's create a class. And here we can define the 2 methods that we mentioned in the routes. First one is new and the other one is create. Okay, so let's go to the route login. Okay, you can see our template is missing. Let's go to the views and create a sessions folder, and in the sessions we can create our new template. And in the new template let's copy this thing and add it here, but for the URL will be login, right? And here we don't have actually the user object. Let's pass only the key user, and then we don't need this email name, because we only want to have this email and password field, and the label of the button would be login. So if we refresh, so you can see that we have this email and password. So if I just fill the form and try to submit it, so nothing happened. But in the terminal you can see that it started the post request and sends to the sessions controller create method, and this is the data that is passed, the email and password. and then we can actually find the user, and then if it is valid, then we can create the session. Okay, let's go to the session controller, and in the create, okay, in the create, what we can do is first we have to find the user if with this email. So we can find user dot find by, and then we want to find a user with the email, and the value would be params of user, because you can see that email is nested inside the user hash, right? So here we can check if user, right? It means that user is present, and we can now also verify that user dot password, we can check it is equal to the params of user dot password, else, and then end. So it means that user is valid, means that user the data that we passed, we found try to find this user from the database with this email, we found that one, and the password that user entered is also matched. It means that user is valid and the credentials are correct. So we can store our user ID in the session, right? So this is the session hash that is accessible throughout our application. So here we can store the user.id. So whenever we want to check if the user is authenticated, we can check from the session if the user ID is present, and then from the user ID we can actually get the user object from our database. Okay, and then here we can actually show the message or no alert of notice that welcome, or welcome, you are logged in, you are now logged in. Okay, otherwise if the user is not authenticated, means that if we don't find the user with this email in our database, or the password does not match, means that user entered some invalid credentials, we can show a flash of alert, and the flash will be sorry or invalid username or password. Okay, and after the session is created, we can also redirect the user to the root path, and if the user is invalid, then we can redirect to our login. Okay, so let's try. Okay, one more thing, here you can see that we are comparing the password like that, but it should not work, because the user password, for example, user entered the password like 1234, but when this password 1234, but in the database we have stored the password in the encrypted form, and the encrypted form will not match because we are now comparing the strings. We will have to use the bcrypt method to verify the password, but first I can show you. One, two, three, four. If I hit enter, it stays on the same page, means that this is called, it's redirects to the /login, means that it comes on this block, S block, but it did not show any alert. So we can go to our, to show the alert, we can go to our application.html.erb, right, and instead of showing here, okay, here let's add the alert. We can show the alerts after this navbar. Okay, and here we can show flash of notice if flash of notice not present. We can have like two alerts. First one is success alert, and the other one was the flash of alert. It is called when there is any error, and it is called when the there is everything is good and there is a success. Okay, you can see now if I refresh again, and here I can add a password, and if I hit enter, you can see it showed that invalid username and password, right? So because I entered the correct password, but it still showed the invalid because it tried to compare the password, the plain string with the encrypted one, right? So but we have to use the bcrypt method when we can check let's go to our controller, and we can actually check user dot valid underscore password, user dot authenticate, and here we can pass params of user and then email. Okay, let's try to call here. Let's try this in our console before we actually test it in the browser. So let's find our user in our database first, and then we can call u.authenticate, and then we can pass the password. Oh, sorry, it should be user. Okay, you can see that when we call the authenticate and pass the string, it returns the user object, but if we pass the invalid password, it returns false. It means that when we call this user.authenticate, behind the scenes it converts this into encrypted. It make the string in the encrypted and compare it with this one, and then it matches. If it matches, then it returns the user object, otherwise if it did not match, it returns false. So here you can see that we use this method user.authenticate, and here we have to pass the password. So instead of the email we have to pass the password. Okay, let's refresh here, and then if I add user and email and then password, if I hit enter, sorry, there is a misspelling, it should be double S, and let's refresh and go back. And then if I log in again, you can see now it is saying welcome, you are now logged in. It means that our user is now stored in the session. If I go to the new post in the posts controller, right, and in the new here, if I just add debugger, let's go click on the new post and add debugger is added. Here you can see that here we can actually check in the session if we have the user ID. You can see that in the session ID we have this one, and we can find the user.find of actually pass this one, right, and it returns the user, so that when creating the user we can find the user from the session and get the details from the database. So yeah, I think the other things that we need to do is we have to link the current user, means that user that is logged in. When he creates the new post, we will show his name in this table, and then we will also create some of the helper methods. I think the video is too long, so in the next part we will do the rest of the things. So before I think you have learned something new in this video, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.